Welcome to this deep dive. I'm really, really glad you're here with us today. We are going to be cutting past all those, Hollywood tropes and the fairy tales we've been fed since childhood to explore the absolute core of why we love.
Yeah, and we have an incredible stack of sources today. We are pulling from ancient philosophy, deep Jungian psychology, modern relationship science, and even the strategic laws of seduction.
It's a vast landscape, but let's just jump right in because whether you are navigating the really thrilling, terrifying waters of a new romance, or maybe you're gently nursing a healing heart right now.
Or honestly, even if you were simply insanely curious about the mysteries of human connection.
Exactly. Our mission today is to offer you a profound shortcut to understanding the ultimate human experience, the labyrinth of the human heart. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin to understand the origins of this overwhelming drive to connect?
I think the most illuminating place to start, and maybe the most gentle, is by looking at how the earliest philosophers tried to make sense of that intense, undeniable yearning we all feel.
Like the Greeks.
Right, the Greeks. We're probably all fairly familiar with Aristophanes' classic idea. It was presented in Plato's Symposium. The idea that humans originally had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces.
And then Zeus, feeling threatened, splits us right down the middle.
Yes, leaving us endlessly searching for our missing halves just to feel whole again. It's beautiful, but it's fascinating to see how later thinkers completely upended that romantic notion.
Oh, completely. Like Arthur Schopenhauer.
Right. Schopenhauer had a far more cynical, much more grounded take. He argued that love, especially when it's driven purely by physical desire, is really just what he termed a voluptuous illusion.
A voluptuous illusion. I mean, that sounds incredibly bleak. He was essentially arguing that this magical feeling of falling in love is just a trick, a biological trick designed solely to make us procreate.
A trap, almost.
Yeah, a biological trap. And once that biological imperative is met, the illusion just evaporates, and it dumps us right back into our mundane, tormented existence.
It's definitely not the fairy tale version.
No, it's not. But then you have the British philosopher Bertrand Russell. And I think his view offers us a bit more agency and a lot more warmth in how we choose to connect.
It absolutely offers a softer, more hopeful counterweight to Schopenhauer. Russell suggested that human beings are, at our core, fundamentally terrified of the cold, unpredictable world.
Which is very fair. The world is terrifying.
It is. And to survive it, we build these thick, isolated shells around ourselves. For Russell, love isn't just a biological trick. It's the one vital force that coaxed us out of those lonely shells.
It warms us. It allows us to step out of that defensive isolation and engage far more abundantly and joyfully with life itself.
This raises an important question. Is love actually a cure for our suffering, like Russell suggests? Or is it fundamentally the root cause of it?
That is the ultimate question.
If we look to Eastern philosophy, specifically the Buddhist perspective, there is a beautifully haunting cautionary tale about attachment in the classic Chinese novel, Dream of the Red Chamber.
Oh, the story of Jia.
Yes. Jia falls into this tragic, completely obsessive love with a woman named Shi Fang. And she does not treat him well. She repeatedly tricks and humiliates him.
And his infatuation just totally consumes his spirit. He becomes physically ill from it, right?
He does. And to cure this terrible affliction, a wandering Taoist gives Jia a magic mirror. But the Taoist issues a very strict, specific warning. He tells Jia he must only look at the back of the mirror. He must never look at the front.
But of course, he's human.
Exactly. Driven by his agonizing attachment, he simply cannot resist. He looks into the front of the glass, and he sees the intoxicating illusion of his beloved beckoning to him. And his soul is literally pulled into the mirror.
He's dragged away in iron chains.
Right to his death. The gentle but very firm lesson embedded there is that clinging to our attachments, and specifically to the illusions we project onto other people, only brings deep, agonizing suffering.
Which is such a profound transition into the realm of Carl Jung, because when we talk about the illusions we cast onto others, we're really talking about the mechanics of projection.
Jung's absolute specialty.
Yes. Most of us are familiar with his foundational concepts of the anima, the inner feminine principle within men, and the animus, the inner masculine principle within women. And it is profoundly interesting to apply those concepts to the everyday experience of falling in love.
Because Jung believed that falling in love is rarely about seeing the other person clearly, at least not in those early days.
Right. When you are sitting in a quiet cafe and you lock eyes with a total stranger and you feel that sudden earth-shattering spark,
you aren't actually seeing that stranger's true self. You are looking into a mirror. You are recognizing a suppressed, forgotten, or maybe a deeply desired part of your own soul reflected back at you.
So what does this all mean? It means that so often we are actually falling in love with our own unlived potential. We see our own buried creativity or our silenced wildness or our hidden strength shining in the eyes of someone else.
That is the core of the lover archetype. It's a profound pattern residing in the collective unconscious of all of us. The lover doesn't just seek romance in the traditional sense.
No, the lover is on a quest for beauty and truth and a deeply soulful connection to life itself.
You see this archetype burning so brightly in the lives of great artists.
Think of Frida Kahlo, taking her immense physical and emotional trauma and just transmuting it into these vibrant, immortal paintings.
Or the 13th century poet Rumi, who spun verses of such ecstatic divine love that they still provide deep comfort to readers centuries later.
The lover archetype is ultimately about communion. It brings to mind the philosopher Martin Buber and his concept of the I-thou relationship.
Buber is so crucial here.
He really is. He stood in complete contrast to René Descartes' famous isolating statement, I think, therefore I am. For the lover, for Buber, the truth is rather I connect, therefore I become.
Our truest identity isn't forged in solitary thought.
No, it is forged in the fires of an authentic relationship with another.
But staying in that initial fiery stage of the I-thou projection carries a very significant risk. Jung warned of something called psychic inflation.
Which is mistaking emotional intensity for real love.
Exactly. It's the dangerous mistake of confusing the intoxicating intensity of a projection with real, enduring love. True love, the kind that actually heals and transforms us, only begins when the projection eventually fades.
When the illusion cracks.
Yes, when the beloved inevitably falls off the pedestal and you are forced to see their flaws. Real love is the active, conscious choice to cherish the imperfect, messy human standing right in front of you.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How do we actually bridge the gap between that profound soul-level connection and the day-to-day mechanics of drawing someone close to us? The author Robert Greene has some brilliant insights in our sources today regarding the nature of seduction.
And he argues that it isn't about cold manipulation at all.
Not at all. Seduction, in its purest form, is a natural human mating ritual rooted entirely in vulnerability.
Vulnerability is the mechanism that allows us to bypass people's natural defenses.
Yeah.
The word vulnerable actually comes from the Latin word vulnus.
Meaning wound.
Meaning wound, yes. To be vulnerable is to subtly signal that you carry wounds, that you require care. Greene uses the analogy of a puppy.
I love this analogy so much.
It's perfect. A puppy is utterly defenseless, soft, and visibly in need of protection. When we encounter that, it magically draws us in. It compels us to lower our own heavy armor because we feel a sudden innate desire to protect and connect.
But while vulnerability draws love in, the sources also highlight behaviors that actively repel it. Anti-seductive behaviors.
Things that push people away immediately.
Like a certain kind of insecurity that masquerades as vulnerability, but is actually just total self-absorption.
Or preaching. Moralizing is another major mood killer. Nothing extinguishes the warmth of a new connection, quite like someone asserting their own moral superiority over you.
And then there's the distinct lack of generosity or effort. There is a hilariously tragic anecdote in the sources about someone taking a date to a specific restaurant only because they had a discount code for it.
Nothing says I see your soul quite like a coupon for 2-for-1 appetizers.
Right. It signals a rigid tightness. It shows an unwillingness to step outside of one's own practical, calculated needs to make the other person feel uniquely valued.
But let's assume you navigate those early days successfully. You leave the discount codes at home, you show genuine vulnerability, and you enter into a committed relationship. Eventually and inevitably, conflict will arise.
Which brings us back to Jung, specifically his concept of the shadow. Those are the parts of ourselves we desperately try to hide.
Our rage, our envy, our deep-seated shame.
The sources suggest that true love actually must awaken the shadow. When your partner triggers you, making you feel suddenly furious or intensely insecure, we often view that as a sign the relationship is failing.
We think, oh, this is the wrong person.
Exactly. But Jung frames it as an invocation to individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your true, whole self.
Your partner's shadow and their uncanny ability to trigger yours is the crucible for mutual growth. The School of Life offers a wonderful perspective on navigating this friction. They explain why being too logical in love is actually a profound flaw.
Logic has its place, but not always in emotional conflict.
Right. They use a brilliant metaphor. Imagine your partner is standing on a high balcony, and they suddenly experience a terrifying bout of vertigo.
If you approach that purely with logic, you might stand there and rationally explain the physics of the architecture to them. You could detail the tensile strength of the iron balustrade and the building codes that guarantee the balcony won't collapse.
But that doesn't help them at all.
Not at all. In that moment of panic, they don't need brute common sense. They need comfort. They need you to hold their hand and lead them inside.
Emotional life has its own deep, intricate logic that often traces all the way back to childhood wounds. True emotional intelligence in love is recognizing that while a fear might not be logical, the need for comfort is entirely real.
That is so beautifully put. But of course, discerning the difference between a partner who is triggering your shadow for mutual growth and a partner who is simply detrimental to your well-being requires a lot of clarity.
It really does. You have to know what you're looking for.
Let's walk softly through the signs that help us make that distinction. Looking at the psychological red flags highlighted in the sources, we can see a major theme of transactional attention.
10 very clear signs they don't love you.
Yes. We see this when a partner only initiates contact when they need a favor, or when they artificially inflate their schedule to appear constantly busy manufacturing distance.
Pretending to be busy is such a common one. Or only wanting a physical relationship.
Right. Rarely complimenting you. Another glaring theme is emotional apathy, fostering a toxic dependency where you feel you can't survive without them, while simultaneously making zero effort to please you and simply not caring whether you are happy or sad.
Blaming you for everything, disrespecting your boundaries, or wanting to break up but staying just out of a fear of being alone.
If you are listening to this right now and recognize these patterns in your own life, be gentle with yourself. Acknowledging them is the first step toward reclaiming your peace.
It takes immense courage just to see it clearly. Contrasting those painful markers, though, the profound Jungian signs of true connection revolve around resonance and elevation.
The green lights.
The green lights. Rather than a toxic dependency, true love energizes you. Even in silence, their presence acts as a restorative life force rather than an exhausting drain. You recognize a familiar soul.
And they actively awaken your shadow and force you to look at it gently.
Yes. There's also a distinct sense of synchronicity. Time seems to slow down around them, and meaningful coincidences seem to draw you together.
And perhaps most importantly, there is a shared higher purpose. You are engaged in parallel growth, walking side by side towards something meaningful. You inspire each other to be radically authentic without the need for any masks.
Forcing you to choose truth over living a lie. If we connect this to the bigger picture, once we actually find this kind of profound, authentic connection, how do we sustain it?
How do we build a lasting, happy life around it when those initial sparks inevitably settle?
We have to completely redefine our cultural understanding of happiness. The philosopher Johnny Compson provides a brilliant framework for this. He points out that happiness isn't just pleasure.
What the ancient Greeks called hedonia.
Right, hedonia. Hedonia is eating a decadent meal or experiencing a sudden rush of excitement. But chasing hedonia is like playing an unwinnable game of whack-a-mole with our daily desires. As soon as you satisfy one urge, another immediately pops up to take its place.
Thompson uses the wonderful analogy of a bored vampire to illustrate this. Imagine a vampire who has lived for centuries and has experienced every physical, hedonistic pleasure the world has to offer.
Done it all, seen it all.
Exactly. Eventually, they're just lying on a velvet sofa, completely numb. It's not just that the vampire is bored, it's that the complete absence of struggle or deeper pursuit has stripped their existence of all meaning. Pure pleasure eventually hollows us out.
True happiness, Thompson argues, is eudaimonia, which translates to flourishing. And eudaimonia often doesn't feel pleasurable in the immediate moment.
No, it's the hard stuff.
It looks like looking back at a grueling, difficult period like raising young children or caring for a sick partner through a long, dark winter and realizing with profound clarity that through the sacrifice, you were deeply, meaningfully happy.
To sustain this flourishing, Thompson outlines 3 pillars. The first is stepping beyond pure pleasure. The second is practicing moderation, finding the middle way, and avoiding the vicious extremes of both excess and deficiency.
And the third pillar is beautifully simple: being good. He cites an evolutionary psychology study by Robin Dunbar on the nature of gossip.
That study was fascinating.
It really was. The study demonstrates that cruel, immoral people ultimately become shunned and lack true friends. And human beings fundamentally need deep friendships to achieve eudaimonia.
You simply cannot be a cruel person and achieve true flourishing. It requires a baseline of goodness, and this goodness must be applied to our romantic lives as a conscious, daily practice.
The psychoanalyst Erich Fromm wrote brilliantly about this in his book, The Art of Loving. He argued that love is not a magical event that passively happens to you while you wait around.
It is an art. And like any art, like mastering the cello or painting a canvas, it requires deep discipline, immense patience, and the daily, intentional overcoming of our own narcissism.
The philosopher Simone de Beauvoir echoed this sentiment beautifully. She believed that authentic love resembles a great, profound friendship, where both partners actively support each other in reaching beyond themselves.
Expanding their horizons together in total equality.
To put that philosophy into practice, the School of Life offers 7 vital ingredients for what they call a new, secular religion of love. These are the practical tools we need to practice Fromm's art daily.
Let's go through them.
The first is charity, offering a soft, forgiving gentleness toward the broken, messy, and frustrating parts of our partners.
The second is imagination. This is the empathetic ability to look past someone's thorny, defensive rage and clearly see the hidden, trembling pain underneath. That imagination is what stops us from reacting to anger with more anger.
The remaining ingredients are kindness, forgiveness, loyalty, generosity, and patience.
And that patience is key. It's the willingness to let the other person grow at their own organic speed rather than the accelerated speed our ego demands.
It's a demanding list. It asks for the absolute best of our nature.
It really does. And as we gently bring this deep dive to a close, let's just take a moment to reflect on the vast terrain we've covered today. We've journeyed from the mythic tales of ancient Greeks searching for their missing halves, through Carl Jung's fiery crucible of the shadow and the lover archetype, all the way to the daily practical art of maintaining eudaimonia.
We've discovered that love is not a passive fairy tale. It is an active, deeply patient art.
It is a mirror reflecting our deepest, most hidden selves, and it is a sacred space for our own personal transformation.
Whether you are single and seeking, navigating the thrilling uncertainty of early dating, or have been married for several decades, love always requires one thing above all else: courage.
The courage to drop what Robert Greene called the 18th century actor's mask, to embrace the messy, beautiful, and sometimes agonizingly flawed reality of the other person, and to treat them, and just as importantly, yourself, with ultimate charity.
It is truly the work of a lifetime.
It is. And as you go about the rest of your day, we want to leave you with one final lingering thought to explore in the quiet of your own mind. If every intense attraction you feel is actually a mirror reflecting an unlived part of your own soul, what is your current or past relationship trying to tell you about the person you are secretly longing to become?